Pull the clock.
We gotta pull the clock.
I forgot the clock again.
I'm picking up that clock.
I forgot the clock again. Well, fuck it, we'll leave it. Colin, you're gonna have fun with this part.
You gotta edit out the clock noise. Oh,
John, say something stupid.
Something stupid.
So John likes big cocks.
I said something stupid.
Well, you like big cocks?
Yes.
Alright, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Film Asylum. We are your hosts, Colin Peters here.
This is my boomstick!
Seriously, I straight up fucking hate you. You know that? How do you wreck an amazing episode by just doing something stupid right off
I've been good to you the last couple weeks, and you knew this was coming. You had to have known that.
I should have known. Fuck.
John Rochetter here.
Jeff Manfred.
Notice 5 minutes ago we told him to say something stupid, and all he said was something stupid, and he follows it with that.
How dare you say one of the best quotes is stupid?
Dude, the quote's not stupid.
You just are.
Okay.
You're very accepting, John.
I just kind of go with the flow.
Well, you're kind of stuck with us now, so what's the point?
Fuck.
Alright, anyway, to get this show on the road, we're going to be having not just a one-off, I guess you want to call it. Most of the time we always just talk about one movie versus a sequel or a progression, but this time we're talking about an entire franchise today, and that is the Evil Dead franchise.
Absolutely, dude. I've been excited about this for months.
We talked about it last year, but this time we're finally actually doing it. Not just like one movie we've been doing before, but an entire universe.
Eventually we will talk about the movies in particular here and there and break them down more, but we just love the Evil Dead franchise so much that today was like, no, we got to talk about everything. Mm-hmm. We were just so excited to talk about it that we couldn't just not talk about everything that comes along with it. I mean, Jeff's even wearing a Ash vs. Evil Dead shirt today for the occasion.
Absolutely. I think most of my clothes involve some sort of Evil Dead shirt.
In all of its glory.
And a big thing about Evil Dead that makes it unique is by the time this movie came out, the first movie, in the 80s, they were known for having the monsters being the main stars of the show and what carried on the sequels. But in Evil Dead, it's really about the protagonist, Ash. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that we all know more as a hero and him fighting demons instead of being the demon that comes back and haunts and tries to harm everybody. So it's actually pretty refreshing to see it. Even though when you watch the first movie, even the second to an extent, that he really is...
He's a bitch.
He's non-heroic at all.
No. Well, the good thing that the show does is they basically glorify him as this hero because he's had 3 movies, that he's basically amped up this reputation, even if it's in Elk Grove. Is that where it takes place?
Yep.
Elk Grove.
Elk Grove.
But yeah, the show does bring up some interesting elements tying into Bruce Campbell or Ash Williams' history as being a member of the long-running franchise. This is a movie, the first one I'm talking about, this was a complete gamble. I mean, there's just a couple film students from Detroit. I don't know if they were actually college dropouts or if they decided to leave college in order to basically pursue their dream of making movies and getting in the industry ahead of time. But they drove to a cabin in Tennessee and they filmed a fucking cabin in the woods in the middle of fall. And not just the story that was hell on earth, it was behind the camera that was also hell on earth. These guys went through some shit when it came to this movie. I mean, everyone's probably familiar with, in terms of people like getting into fights off camera and being uncomfortable, the crew members having to sleep in the cabin overnight, freezing conditions, getting soaked in so much fake blood that when they tried to dry the shirts off in the fire, they cracked in half. it was a miserable experience for everybody. So this was a complete gamble, not to mention that they were, taking out bank loans left and right. Bruce Campbell put his parents' house on the market just to achieve funding for this movie. This could have been a disaster. It really could have been, but, it became this big cult hit. Stephen King actually had a nice big saying into how the movie got so popular, and before you know it, there was a sequel and another one, and look at where we are now.
Spawned a franchise.
And I don't think they thought about it as a franchise at that moment. They were just like, all right, let's get this one movie done and kind of move forward.
Mm-hmm.
If we can do another one, do another one. I think, honestly, Sam Raimi is more known for Evil Dead than doing Spider-Man and Wizard of Oz, because Evil Dead is his baby.
I can't believe you mentioned Wizard of Oz.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, God.
Because if you think about it, that was like at the height of his career, and I'm talking about something he started out with in the, early 80s, where it's like, dude, you're now working for Disney. Remember that. That's always where you're going to be. That's what everyone's going to remember you from, not here. So, gotta think about that.
Oh, jeez.
Bruce Campbell's in that, too. So, by the way...
Is he real?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't see that one. I don't think I really wanted to see that one because I was not impressed with the trailer, and it just looked too artificial to me.
It was. He plays the same thing that he did in Spider-Man 2, a doorman.
So, doorman.
Mila Kunis is in it.
I know she's a gorgeous actress, but I'm sorry, it just didn't have my interest at all.
Yeah, fuck that movie anyway.
I mean, they dealt with very limited special effects in the first movie. There are some things that really do stand out. Some of the gore effects look awesome. And I remember when they screened this movie in theaters, they were worried how people were going to react. And they were shocked that people were laughing so much. But it wasn't laughing at the movie, it was laughing with the movie. And that played to its strength from going from one theater to another and becoming this massive cult hit. They realized this is actually kind of funny, even though this is like kind of like a serious film in terms of people getting possessed, turned into deadites, and then getting chopped in half with chainsaws and getting blown apart by a shotgun. A book that's bleeding.
But if you're looking at that first movie alone, like, you could see that they had so much horror elements,
Mm-hmm.
but the cheese factor, even though they weren't trying, actually is what made that movie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just saw it recently at the drive-in, and I enjoy it more that way than actually watching it at home, because, like, you're getting that full effect that they wanted.
Yeah.
And it's actually really cool, but watching it there, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I started noticing more. Every time I see this movie, I feel like I'm noticing stuff I didn't notice before. I'm probably just forgetting it, like the simple things, and it just makes it even funnier as it's playing out.
It's funny. That's kind of like what we had when we saw Halloween in theaters, the original Halloween, where we actually saw it with a crowd of people, and we realized, oh my God, everyone thinks this is funny just as we do. Like with the character PJ Souls, well, she's totally not here. Every time she said the word totally, everybody lost it.
And the sheet, when Michael Myers comes out in the sheet, it's like, it just felt like it was meant to be more for the laugh, and when you watch it at home, it's like, yeah. But then when you hear everybody in the theater, it's like, yeah.
you need that theater feel. I mean, it was actually good being back in the theater. I saw Christopher Nolan's Tenet not long ago. There was like 5 people in the theater, but it was good to be back after 6 months of this quarantine shit that we're dealing with.
I think it's also that mob mentality. Once you're getting that vibe of everything that's there, you're starting to, you realize, this is actually what it's made for. Like, movies, yes, they're amazing to watch at home, but if you watch in the theater, the drive-in, whatever, you're getting more of the feel that the movie is supposed to be there for.
Yeah.
And it's a melting pot for everybody. Comic book movies now have come so far from what they were. Like, it was nerdy, it was stupid, but now you get pro athletes that are watching them, and families of different ethnicities and religions that can kind of put their beliefs and differences aside or whatever, and they just all come together and say, screw it, man, let's go watch a movie and have a good time. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Do you guys view Evil Dead 2 as a remake or a sequel?
Both.
Yeah, both.
Because if you watch the first 45 minutes, it's reiterating what the first movie was. Mm-hmm. Where the first movie is an hour and a half, and it takes longer to get to the point where 2, not having the rights to their own material, had to reshoot everything and fit it in a 45-minute window. And then, so you're literally getting your remake and your sequel in the same movie, which is kind of cool because that's where we end up getting the chainsaw-handed Ash, which is funnier than hell. But it's like the original movie, you're like, oh, this guy's kind of a wimp, a pussy. He screams more than most of the girls do.
Yeah.
I mean, screams.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great scene where he's just cutting his own hand off. The blood's just splattering in his face, and then there's the elk mount just like laughing demonically. It kills me every time. I love that.
It's a moose.
It is a moose.
It's an evil Kandarian demon moose.
I'm an evil Kandarian demon moose. Just as the musical will tell us.
Exactly.
He sounded more like that, though. Not what you just said.
But I didn't quote the moose.
Seriously, I'm starting to hate you even more right now.
Do you wish I was a Deadite?
No. I do have the Necronomicon over there. I can still hit you with it.
We can read it.
It's closed. It sucks.
There's nothing in there.
Yeah, it's all blank pages. There's no blood.
It's a big fuck you on the back page. Like, were you expecting to read something? Nope.
It's the lesser known demon curse in there.
I was hoping so. Something lie to me. Do something.
Probably this might be debatable for me, but like my favorite one is Army of Darkness, the third one, in which Ash goes back in time to medieval times and then fights the prehistoric Deadites, basically. I know people probably wished it was more horror themed into it, but there's like still some really creepy shots. Like the one thing that sticks out to me is when he starts growing another Ash inside himself. You see the eyeball in his shoulder blade. It's just like peeking out of him. Yes, it's more for comedic relief, especially with the big climactic battle at the end, which actually is really fucking epic. As cheesy as that movie is compared to the other two movies, that battle scene, that whole fight between his demon self and his self is actually really fucking awesome to watch.
I'd say, honestly, like, I didn't know for years that was a third in the whole series. And I remember watching that one a lot, obviously on Sci-Fi, because apparently that's the only thing they had to play. And it wasn't until, I want to say, like, probably 3 years after the fact that I found out that was a third. So, like, seeing the first movie for the first time, I think it was like 12 or 13, yeah, that fucked my day up. Because, like, you're watching that and you're like, all that crazy gore and shit happening, your brain's just like, I fucking don't understand.
Because I can see that because in terms of not knowing it was part of the original, because they actually wanted this movie to stand on its own, because it was not going to be called Army of Darkness. It was going to be called something else to try and tie it in with the other movies. But then the studio fought against them, saying, no, it should stand on its own. Let's call it Army of Darkness instead. So I think there was even there's other versions of this movie. I think my older sister, she had a copy called Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness. I think that was another alternate version of it.
I do remember
longer
that.
version of it. Yeah.
I remember seeing that movie advertised in comic books back in the early 90s. And I was like, what the heck is this? And you could see the poster with him standing in front of like the whole castle and the army going off with the chainsaw hand. And I was like, I have no idea what this is all about. And of course, the girl with the cleavage showing. Thinking, oh, all right. It's like in every comic book in the early 90s.
Come on, look at the demographic for that. All right, it's a comic book, got cleavage. All right.
You're set.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, too, I first saw it in a Spider-Man comic.
That is even more ironic at this point because, like,
Oh, it's too good.
I mean, like, even the comic books alone, they've pretty much expanded that whole universe of, I'd say, more of Army of Darkness than anything else. Like, there is, I think, one comic that deals with Evil Dead 2, and I think it's called Dead by Dawn, and it's actually the house being drugged into hell, and they're trying to figure out how to get out and why this is occurring, because it's, I can't remember her name. It's the woman whose family is her cabin. She's getting drugged down there, and then Ash shows up for no reason at all, but I think it's because Evil Dead, and he helps them get out. Like, apparently he missed his jump when he went to the army, to the medieval time. It just ended up in there instead. So it was kind of cool with that. And then Army of Darkness itself has so many versions. I have 3 big books of just the comics for Army of Darkness because there's so many crossovers, like Reanimator, was it Vampira? There's somebody else. Recently they did make fun of Breakfast Club. They just did Bubba Hotep versus Army of Darkness.
Oh my god.
That one I'm actually trying to find. They just did Kiss versus Army of Darkness.
Of course.
So, like, each one ties back to night that he left for the cabin. So like next, like he was supposed to come back from the cabin. He was supposed to go to this Kiss concert, so it never happened. And apparently, so apparently, Kiss never becomes that big because he never shows up. And I'm sitting there going, wait, what? But as you read on, it just they end up using Kiss as this whole fucking like army to fight the army of darkness. It's funny as hell because of it.
Did he say the words? Did he speak the words correctly? Well, maybe I didn't say every tiny little syllable, but basically I said them. Yeah.
Yeah, they pretty much, that was like the one thing everyone makes fun of, the fact that he cannot say those 3 words.
Klaatu, Verata. It's so funny. Oh my god. I mentioned the battles already, but like just the skeleton army, they're playing flutes on bones. You've got like Scottish skeletons playing bagpipes. You got a guy playing skulls for the drums. It's priceless. It really is. But my favorite moment is when the flaming arrow sequence is happening. One skeleton just stands there, gets hit, and just looks at the camera and just goes, "Oh!" Just blows up.
So I'm taking it you watched this like yesterday?
Probably, yeah, I did. I mentioned this before in another podcast episode where that is my quarantine movie. That's one of my 3 quarantine movies is Army of Darkness. My only regret is the version that I keep seeing is that I wish it was longer. It was clocking in at like 85 minutes. You could have easily tacked in like 10, 15 minutes more, but that's probably another version of it, though, just because I had a hard time getting out to theaters, and even Bruce Campbell was stressing a lot of hate for that. Like, come on, get this movie out. Like, why are you delaying this? So it was a little bit of a hard struggle for him and Sam Raimi and the people backing the movie.
Did you ever see the alternate ending to Army of Darkness?
No, I probably did. No, I did not.
Oh, wait, is that the one where he wakes up in the cave and he overshot his time?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that.
That actually is one of the comic versions, too. They actually take that ending, and he ends up in the future where the Deadites actually took over.
Oh, shit.
So when he wakes up, he goes through, and all of a sudden he's like seeing everything destroyed. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, you start realizing, like, yeah, he was supposed to go back and fix everything. I was like, when you brought that up, I'm like sitting there going, yeah, that was actually the one that's actually the biggest chunk of those comics is him dealing with them in the future. And it's like with him being gone for hundreds of years, they're like, well, what happened? All of a sudden he's showing up now. All because he can't say the 3 words.
He couldn't say Klaatu, Verata, Niktu.
Oh, wasn't it because he had to take some potion? He
I
had to take like 3 drops, but here he took 4 or 5 or something. He heard a noise and was like, oh yeah, 4, 5.
I got it. I know your damn words.
But I did love the theatrical ending to that when the Deadite comes into the S-Mart store. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, Ash. Hardware! He just breaks out a Remington or something and just
fucking, when he goes, she goes, I'll swallow your soul. He goes, swallow this!
And he just got that pump action rifle.
Of all the 3 movies, it's definitely the most quotable. Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. As he's holding the Remington rifle right at her face. And that's where you get the, you found me beautiful once. Honey, you got real ugly.
There were so many good quotes in that movie. Yeah. Hey, what's that on your face there?
Oh my gosh.
It was a really good balance of that comedy and like fun action. I mean, Army of Darkness was fun. It was a total different departure from Evil Dead 1 and 2 that were just straight up horror movies.
Well, even 2, they said they used ideas from 3 Stooges to pull off some of the jokes. So from 1 to 2, they started realizing that they can make this into a funny series. So, like, you had the first 45 minutes reiterating, and then as you're building upon it, you start realizing, like, he's going over the top on purpose. So, what is it, Henrietta's head stuck in there, they jump on it, the eye pops out and hits the girl in the face?
Yep.
Yeah, they literally said they stole that from 3 Stooges.
When he cuts off his hand and it's fighting him and it's flipping him off, and he's like, oh, you...
Like, out of everything in that movie, the hand is what got me. I laughed the most every time because I'm like, it's the smallest thing, and it's kicking his ass every time. And then all of a sudden he's like laughing about it getting caught in the mousetrap. And the figure's like, straight up, fuck you.
It definitely did have that slapstick in the second movie, but it was funny.
Oh, yeah.
When I first watched it, I'm thinking, am I supposed to laugh at this? I thought this was a horror movie. But I think there was also stuff in that they wanted to do that they couldn't do in the first movie, so they put it in.
Budget. All because of budget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when you watch Evil Dead 1 and 2, I mean, you have to have an open mind about it, because that is independent and low budget as all fuck.
Super low budget, yes.
I mean, I know a lot of people who say that they aren't into it just because of that, because the effects are so cheesy, and I get it. I mean, I understand it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Necronomicon in the first movie looks so bad, and the version that we're used to is what you see in Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness.
The detail definitely pops more in the other movies. But I'll say, I probably watched the first movie just as much as I watched Army of Darkness, and then Evil Dead 2 a close right behind it. But just because of it being an inspirational movie, because these guys just wanted to go out there and make a fucking movie. They're hungry filmmakers, just like all of us, and they took a massive risk. It paid off when it could have just fell flat on their faces, and they capitalized off of it. So good for them.
Oh, and when you look back on how that movie is and how it turned out and compared to some other movies, I mean, we've talked about it before and joked about the trailer for Pennies from Heaven. I mean, Evil Dead 1 is far superior of a movie than what Pennies from Heaven is.
Are you kidding me? It's night and day. You could see, like, the early talent on display for Sam Raimi, how he had that one shot, like, inside the clock, the pendulum swinging, where you can see the shadow swinging back and forth. And then, of course, like the POV version that we all know, that evil is coming towards them, the trees falling over and stalking the people. Oh, yeah, that was really, really clever. And it was just a simple thing of just, I think, Bruce Campbell just pushing Sam Raimi on some sort of device as they're going forward.
Actually, it was in the water. It was them in a boat. And,
yeah.
Bruce Campbell was up to his chest in water, one of those waiter
outfits,
and then I think they said it was a dolly he pushed him on just to get that effect across the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, that's actually pretty funny because like they're really low budget movies.
Yeah.
I know he talked about a lot of the effects in his first book. Was it Hail to the Chin or something like that?
If Chins Could Kill?
Yeah, that's the one. He has 3 or 4 books at this moment, and it's just like they're all ridiculously named. But that one, if you actually read it, he does talk about his beginnings, and he talks about this movie a lot because this movie is what really made him who he is. Like, he wasn't the over the top that he is now. Like, it didn't fill the character out until Evil Dead 2, and it kind of like he went from being serious to like, yo, we can actually be very cocky, we can be over the top with the acting, and it fits perfectly just for Ash. And the one effect that always I laughed at was the one where Cheryl's by the window and she gets lifted up in the air and she's like floating. They took a 2x4 and lifted her off the ground. There's like 2 guys in the back holding her up. I'm like, so it's like it's stuff like that. Like they went without having really any money doing all the cool effects. Like I was sitting there like just watching it again. I was like, damn, that's actually still a badass scene. Like,
oh, it is.
And they like heard looking out the window, writing, and all of a sudden like reading off cards like it's nothing, and then turn around, fucked up face.
Mm-hmm.
And Evil Dead is like the essential cabin in the woods movie. I mean, yeah, you got Friday the 13th that had the camp and the cabins, but it's really not about being stuck in a cabin that's haunted.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you think like that spin-off movie, or not spin-off movie, but it's more like a tribute movie, Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that cabin was exactly the Evil Dead cabin.
Essentially. Unfortunately, that cabin is no longer standing. It actually got bulldozed, and they put like a time capsule in the fireplace, and that was the one thing that actually still was standing. The fireplace. The house was completely destroyed. Now it's no longer there because of vandalism, and people just wanted to find that damn cabin so they could steal a piece of Evil Dead.
Yeah. Actually, there's a company that helped take everything apart of that cabin. They actually will sell you pieces, like the glass, the wood, everything.
Ah, cool.
Really?
Like I was just at that the drive-in with the Bruce Campbell Q&A. They were actually selling pieces there. They had the shutters, the window, and something else from the second movie for the photo op. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, we just got a picture of the set because like we showed up right as he was finishing up the photo ops. But I'm like, yeah, that's actually really cool of them to have it, but I'm not paying for the cabin. I'm not gonna lie.
I want a piece of that fucking swing. I'll never forget that swing outside the front door. Just rickety swing going back and forth, hitting against the post. I want a piece of that thing.
Try to find it.
I'm sure you could.
Right,
yeah. for dirt cheap. Oh man. And then after Army of Darkness, then you get the version, or at least in 2013, the version that they wanted to make this whole time with Evil Dead, the remake, which the same producers still backed it up. And
Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, pretty much.
yeah. And holy shit, that movie is fucking gory. I remember seeing that after theaters. I wanted to take a shower, like a nice 30-minute shower after just being exposed to being drenched in blood. All these characters going through. It's raining blood in the climax. It's literally raining blood at one scene as deadites are coming through the ground, and then girl getting chainsawed in half through the face.
I'm not gonna lie, that is actually one of my favorite remakes because, like I said, with the original being horror and not having the money, and now having the money to do everything they wanted, I was happy to see this. It's like just the gore alone. Like the scene that I show everybody when I'm talking about this movie is when Mia's in the basement and that girl's on the stairs and the girl's trying to cut her with the razor blade. She grabs that razor blade out of her hand and he starts cutting her tongue down. And then all of a sudden she's like getting up and out. And she grabs her and kisses her. And like usually I just show everybody that clip. As soon as I start talking about this movie, they're like, dude, I fucking hate you right now. I told you, like, yo, I warned you before I even showed the clip. Like, this movie's fucked up. But I'm like, it's one of my favorite remakes because, like I said, it actually brought the horror element back to the whole Evil Dead universe.
Yeah,
like,
it's a damn good remake. It's definitely one of the best ones out there. And Fede Alvarez definitely having a good career right now. The choice for directing. I also liked the reason why they went to the cabin, because the main girl, I think she had some traumatic past. It was like a family heirloom, and they were bringing her to this cabin sort of like to bring her out of her emotional distress and her funk, and they thought this would be like a good retreat because there's an emotional connection with that cabin and her family.
And didn't she just get out of rehab? I think?
That too, yes.
So, like, she's trying to quit the drugs. So when everything starts happening, they're like, well, is she still hallucinating because she's going with withdrawal, or is it actually happening?
Right.
And they soon find out pretty fucking quick that it's really happening.
I mean, the message in the book, the first page said, burn this book, and they didn't.
Yeah, it was a well-made remake. I mean, if you even want to call it a remake, because it's Evil Dead, but it stands on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when you think of a remake, it's, okay, bring back the old characters and have similar names, but they just did their own thing. I remember when they even asked Bruce Campbell about the news surrounding it, and he was like, Ash isn't in it.
Which they lied.
Yeah.
They lied. He's all the way in the end of this bitch.
Yes, he is.
And all he says is fucking groovy. So I'm sitting there going, wait, is this a fourth, or is this actually a whole new universe?
It still is unexplained to this day.
Listen, I don't think we'll ever find out. It was more or less just like a wink and a nod. That was pretty much what
I
was
think
happening.
that's what they were going for.
Just like how the franchise in general is just like totally unexplained.
It's demons, it's zombies, it's demons.
Yeah. I mean, at least Halloween has like a choose your own adventure timeline that can be somewhat linear. Evil Dead, you kind of have to think about it and break it down for yourself. And
listen, they're just gonna throw the book at us anyway. So what's the point?
Yeah. You're right.
But I would say Army of Darkness came out in 92?
92, I think, yeah.
So from 92 to 2013, it's almost 20 years. So it's like Evil Dead went into a standstill for that long.
Yeah.
And then I honestly want to think that remake is what reignited the love for that, because like it shows like there's still a fan base there. And then shortly after that is when we got the show.
Well, before that, we had the musical.
That's right.
We had the musical.
Yeah, that musical's pretty fucking funny.
That is by far one of the best damn musicals I've ever seen.
I love the music. I love the hilarity, the splatter zone. I remember even like Bruce Campbell saw a production of it and he couldn't stop laughing.
It was a perfect mesh of 1 and 2 and leading up to the very end. I've seen alternate endings where he does go back in time, and then it has the ending of Army in Darkness where he just tells the story about what happens in the cabin, and then he'll say, then there was that point in time where I did travel back to the medieval century, but that's a story for another time. Which is probably the more popular ending to the musical now, but the tunes are just so memorable with that. What the fuck was that?
Yeah, I was like, dude, the first time I even heard about this musical was because of you, Colin, and you kept talking about that song. I'm like, seriously, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, yo, just hold on. He plays a song from
just listen.
I'm dying, because it was not something I was expecting. Like, Evil Dead as a musical, first off, I'm like, where are you getting the music from, and what are you going to do with it? Oh, they went with it.
What the fuck was that? Your sister has turned into a zombie.
What the fuck was that? Your girlfriend was a demon too.
But one of my favorite quotes out of the entire musical is actually right before that song. Even on the soundtrack, it's the basement door opens, and then Cheryl's like, well, it must have been the wind. And
The wind?
Yeah. The wind? We're inside. You really are a stupid bitch.
Well, maybe it was a squirrel. A squirrel!
What I thought you said before was stupid. You really are a stupid bitch. That whole sequence, I laugh. That makes me laugh at the movie more now because of just that musical alone. I'm like, just him saying that. I'm like, yeah, that whole sequence actually makes more sense now.
You got the one song dedicating, well, I had these people in my life that were unfortunately killed by Kandarian demons. This is not something new to me. And then when you have a dance sequence to do the Necronomicon, oh, yes, please bring this home, yes.
The song Cabin in the Woods, so if you ever think of a cabin in the woods, you can actually sing Cabin in the Woods.
That's how it starts out. That's
Yeah.
the first song.
Cabin in the Woods, yeah. We're
So-
5 college students on our way to an old abandoned cabin in the woods. Oh, yeah.
So the first time I saw Evil Dead in the drive-in, I put that soundtrack in. It's about an hour ride, and you end up listening to that soundtrack probably like 5 times because it's that short.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't bring any other CDs because I didn't think it was that long. And the Mahoning Drive-In does an annual like zombie fest. Well, the one we were going to was playing all 3 Evil Deads, and I'm like, yeah, it's fitting. I'm like, after a while, you're hearing those songs over and over though, it kind of gets old quick. I think my wife Lexi wanted to kill me after a while.
I remember John and I in college, we listened to that album, oh, jeez.
Oh, we did.
Nonstop.
We even exposed that to a lot of musical theater friends of ours who had never heard of this underground musical called Evil Dead. And then as soon as we sang the song, What the Fuck Was That? They were, where can I find this?
Yeah.
Where is this?
I remember the look on some of their faces, like, Evil Dead? Like, what? It sounds stupid. It's like, oh, just wait.
Just, we're going to change your minds. This musical will change your fucking minds. Just like that.
And
It's
it
about
did.
to be the most awesome stupid you're about to listen to. The funny thing is, when we were talking about doing this episode, I ended up just re-listening to that. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I had it in my Jeep for a week, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. But it's like one of those nostalgia things. Like, it was funny enough to just keep it listening, but
Oh, hell, I think it's one of those things where it gets you in the Halloween spirit.
Absolutely.
I mean, I usually have a habit of, you know how they call October Rocktober? I mean, I listen to heavy metal music all the time anyway, but I had like a Halloween compilation
So do I.
of
Oh,
specific
yeah.
songs. You know, like there was Dawkins' Dream Warriors on there, Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell, Alice Cooper's Man Behind the Mask. Now I can easily put the whole Evil Dead the Musical soundtrack on that list, along with Rocky Horror and some other things.
That'd be a good fun night. Rocky Horror and
Evil
Evil
Dead.
Dead the Musical.
Oh,
just like
yeah.
back to back. That would be a fun night.
like I said before in the Wow, You Don't Know Me episode, I wish they would actually put these out on like streaming, whatever, as a live performance, because like that was actually one of the funniest things ever. Like the woman playing Cheryl, when Colin and myself saw it, dude, the shit that she was saying just to like, get the word Dawn out there was funny as hell.
Join us.
I'm surprised they haven't like pushed more for an Evil Dead the Musical movie.
Yeah, because honestly, like, even if they would have Bruce Campbell show up for a cameo just to do something stupid, I would think it would be perfect.
Oh my god, get some audience members in the splatter zone, just get drenched with the body parts and the blood, please. Yes.
Evil Dead the Musical movie in 3D. Watch the
Oh
blood
my
come
God,
at you.
that'd be horrible.
That's the substitute for the splatter zone.
Oh my god.
And it'd finally be that perfect mesh of 1 and 2, and they'll surprise us with the ending if he goes back in time, or if it's just and that, my friends, is
Yeah.
how
But it's an amazing experience. Like I didn't know what to expect when I saw the whole thing. I was like, I didn't know they were gonna mesh everything together. Even acknowledging the fact that they reiterated something in 2 that happened to Cheryl in 1, so it's like, oh, we don't need to talk about her. Was it Bobby Joe or Bobby Sue?
I forget.
Oh my god. She was
Yeah.
just in the song.
Yeah, I was like, she's just a one-off character that was very unnecessary. Literally, her part in the entire movie was just to die.
Yeah. Oh god, it's gonna drive me nuts. I forget.
Ned didn't talk at all.
Yeah.
But I think originally the musical he does talk.
Yeah, he talks. He finally gets a word in, and that's shortly after he then gets turned into a deadite.
Yeah.
And then they make a song about it, and then Ash shoots him in the face when he's done singing.
Kind of like Meatloaf getting offed in Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
He sings and he gets killed.
There's so many good songs on that. One of my favorite songs is the... Oh, man, I'm trying to remember it. Hold on. All the men in my life keep getting killed by Kandarian demons.
Yeah, that was I was bringing up like all these people keep getting killed by Kandarian demons.
All my college boyfriends and my one-night stands, my male co-workers and platonic gay friends. Hey! It's like, where did they come up with this? This is genius.
It really is.
I mean, if you have a really loose sense of humor, it's perfect for you. I mean, the three of us have loose sense of humors. We'll laugh at anything. I mean, I laugh at myself all the time. So I don't give a fuck.
I say dumb shit on this channel all the time. I still laugh at myself. You have to.
Yeah, if you take yourself too seriously, it wouldn't make it any fun.
Yeah, you hear that? You politically correct bitches.
Oh, here we go again.
Oh, boy. Well, so when was so then the TV show on Starz, notably the only good thing that was on Starz, is when we got the rise of the Evil Dead with Ash vs. Evil Dead. When was it? Like 2016?
It's either 15 or 16.
15 or 16.
2015 or 16. Yes. That was the one thing that I had to look forward to on the Starz channel because, let's face it, I don't think anybody really watched anything else on that channel except the Evil Dead TV show.
That was the only reason I had Starz. Because I would cancel it soon after Evil Dead would end, and then, oh, it's coming back on? All right.
Another 30-day trial? Okay, I'll watch season 2 now.
I was so excited when they talked about this show because I was like, all right, we got something here. It's like going to be Ash focused, and they said Bruce Campbell was coming back in it. Sam Raimi directed the first episode, and I was reading it more and more. I thought, this sounds like it's going to be really good. And they even dropped the trailer, and I said, damn, man, this is... And it was perfect to have it on something like Starz, or say if it was HBO, or just one of those paid movie channels.
Because the gore alone is why they needed to be paid.
Oh, yeah. These guys went through absolute hell. Just like that first movie, just getting drenched in fake blood. Almost every episode, they got drenched in fake blood, or body parts, or put through some ridiculous scenario that involved them getting blood on them. I can't imagine just like the physical toll or the mental toll that has to be on you, showing up to work every day knowing you're going to get splattered in some way, shape, or form. Not just the main players, but even the supporting cast and the day players and the extras. You're going to show up on set for maybe 15 hours today, and you're going to get drenched in blood for maybe 5 of them.
And the funny thing is about that show is, like, as it goes on, so you get 3 seasons, and you expect it kind of like to tone down as it's going on. No, it's like I feel like they felt like they needed to add new shit. So like you got the first season that ends up them at the cabin, obviously, and it's building up for this moment, and there's blood everywhere, and like the whole finale for that whole thing is like everyone's getting covered in blood and shit and body parts. And then, like, when they go to season 2, they're like, how do we top that season finale? Let's figure, like, as they build on it. I think it's season 3 when he goes to the sperm bank and he's getting attacked by the porno mag.
Yes.
Season 3, yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, please don't tell me they're going to get him covered. Oh, they are going to cover him in semen. Oh.
The magazine's going to grab his junk.
But I was like, what that got me was when they're trying to get the book out of the body, and it ends up, the body coming alive, and he ends up getting shoved through the asshole, so he says, like...
That was a bit much for me at one point. Like, you even see the shit, like, raining down on his head. I'm like, oh, God.
But the funniest quote that came out of that whole episode was, get that dick out of my face. And I was like, up to that moment, we didn't know anything about Ash's background. So even season 1 barely talked about his life outside of the Evil Dead universe. So when season 2 kicks in, you actually meet his dad, you meet the town that he's from, and you actually start meeting some of his friends, who is Ted Raimi, who ends up being Henrietta again, which is probably like the funniest thing about season 2.
Yeah, I was so ready. Like, when is Sam Raimi's brother going to show up? Because not only is he in Army of Darkness with 3 parts, not 1, but 3, he's in Darkman, which is a very unrated, underappreciated movie from Sam Raimi, and the Spider-Man trilogy. I'm like, when is Ted Raimi going to show up? And lo and behold, he's the bartender at Elk Grove. Yes, please.
He's also in Candyman.
Yeah.
He isn't Candyman. Mm-hmm. He's the boyfriend that gets the blood dripped on him.
I was saying, he's also in a movie with Bruce Campbell called My Name is Bruce, and he plays 3 parts again.
That's awesome.
But the 2 parts were actually written for Sam and Ivan Raimi, but because I think it was probably Spider-Man, they couldn't do the parts.
I think, yeah.
And it was just funny because I'm like, really? Ted Raimi gets to play 3 separate parts? And I'm like, it fits, though.
It does. Oh, it does. Oh, man.
And in season 3, you find out Ash has a daughter then.
That was probably the most surprising thing about the show, is like him finding he was married, he had a daughter, and his daughter acts almost exactly like it.
Not surprising she hates his guts. I mean, that was expected. Him trying to be a parent, though, was really hilarious.
I think the one thing we forgot to talk about, in season 2, they actually bring back the original actress who played Cheryl.
They did.
And that was actually like one of the most surprising episodes, is because at that moment we didn't know what everyone thought of him from the town, because like they literally hated him, because we see him as this hero and the town sees him as a murderer. He killed these kids in a cabin. And he just shows back up.
And there's no proof that they were really undead zombies or there's something supernatural going on. It was great seeing those players come back, because I know when the first Evil Dead came out, didn't they kind of distance themselves away from the movies, and they're like, oh yeah, I did this horror movie, I'm not really proud of what I did in that movie, but now they're embracing the hype and the cult success and the phenomenon that it is, so they came back and reprised their roles, so to speak, so that was nice.
Well, I still remember, even in the early 90s, people would talk about a lot of those 80s slasher movies as like, yeah, those movies, because people would say, they're shit, but people of our generation more were like, that was so much fun to watch that stuff, and you could tell you guys had a good time, and it was practical effects, and some of that stuff still holds up really cool to this day, and I think they see it now and how people really enjoy it, and that's especially with what people say to them at the conventions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure that uplifts their spirits. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, besides like bringing back the old characters, we got new characters in the show that were really fun to watch too.
Mm-hmm. The dynamic between Pablo and Kelly.
Honestly, them bringing back Lucy Lawless was probably my biggest surprise when I saw this. I'm like, wait, Lucy Lawless? I'm like, holy shit, Xena's back?
Yeah. I know. Oh, yeah, she's a great character.
Her and Bruce Campbell have done quite a bit together. There was Xena, and then I think she was even a bad guy in Burn Notice.
Yeah.
Because Bruce Campbell was Sam Ash in that.
Yeah, he was in that.
Or Sam Axe. What was his name? Sam Axe?
I think it's Sam Axe.
Sam Axe.
Yeah, Sam Ash is that guitar place. And Ash, too many Ashes.
Yeah.
Ashley.
I say, honestly, like, I want to call her Ruby, but Lucy Lawless is probably one of the most badass women out there, and it's like finally getting to see her come full circle again and start playing a badass, I guess, demon would be the best way.
Immortal demon? Yeah, because that's what she kind of was in the first season.
And to say that she was the one who wrote the Necronomicon and had more background to it,
was a surprise. What now?
And the fact that like the whole time you're under the concept that she was the sister to the family that originally owned the cabin, until she reveals that, I wrote this book. Like, wait a second.
And the Kandarian dagger was actually in the original movies, but we never knew what it was.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that was finally explained, and that's what she used to dip the blood on and write the book.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, wow.
They did some really cool things also with the Necronomicon, like trying to cut the face of the cover of the page of the book. It latches onto Pablo's face, and then the words are being tattooed and scribed on his body. Like, he's still marked by evil, even though he may seem normal. I thought that was a really cool, refreshing idea.
Yeah. And then, was it end of season 1, we got to see Samara Weaving get murdered by the house?
Dude, before anybody knew who Samara Weaving was, she was on Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Like, don't worry, guys. She's gonna get engaged and then play in a death game of hide and go seek in a mansion.
Poor Samara Weaving, she got it bad in that show.
Dude, I was, after rewatching the season 1, I was texting them, and I'm like, dude, this girl can scream. I forgot how much she screams in the last 3 episodes. Yeah. And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh. But we had one of the funniest moments there when her friends get killed by one of the demons, and they use them as puppets.
It's my favorite moment.
And she's like talking to her.
The cop, Lacey,
Yeah.
she turns them into puppets.
I was laughing so hard because I'm like, yo, that is so messed up. He's like, eh.
Hey, I love you so much. No, I love you so much. I'm like, please give me more of this, please.
Oh.
And it had an evolution of Ash. Not only did it show him as this like funny, groovy guy that we know, but he had the I did that on purpose. But he had like a new glove to like have a right hand again, and then he could detach it and have the chainsaw arm again.
I think honestly that was probably for budget reasons because trying to digitally remove a hand this whole time. Let's just give him a new glove.
Exactly.
But it was cool to see that because it was appropriate. It worked. Mm-hmm. And then there were times where you think, oh, how's he gonna chicken ass his way out of this? No, he would like say, "No, let's go and kick some ass."
Mm-hmm.
It was like, whoa, this is a different side of him.
He's definitely grown.
Like one of my favorite episodes was in season 2 when he was in the asylum, and he's getting his head messed with, thinking like he's not really a hero and he really did kill everybody. But then you find out he was playing the demons all along and was like, nah, man, I'm just messing with you. I'm here to kick your ass. And I was like, dude.
And they bring it back like previous episode, like, oh yeah, he said that he was going to do this, and lo and behold, he did.
Uh-huh.
But I think we got one of the best characters from season 2 when he was in the asylum. Ashy Slashy the puppet.
The puppet.
So that thing was probably one of the funniest things, because they bring it in, like, going, you're insane, this is your alter ego, you talk to him. And they actually have it over the stump hand, which makes it even funnier because the mouth is moving and he doesn't have a hand. So it's like, wait a second here.
Some weird shit going on right now.
Funny thing is, I bought one of those puppets, like the full scale. It is amazing. Dude, it's about, I think almost 12 inches in length.
Okay.
So like it goes all the way down to your elbow. I just can't display it because I don't have a shelf for it.
Oh my god. There was one really cool valid case that was brought up with Lucy Lawless's character when she's talking to Ash, saying, don't you think you want this to keep going? Because without this Necronomicon, without the Deadites in your life, you're basically nothing. You're nobody. And it kind of brings like an interesting, compelling argument where Ash is like, yeah, I kind of am like a loser, and the reason why I've become so popular is because I'm good at killing demons because of this damn book. Do I really want this book to go away forever? Because I kind of like being a hero again. It's what gives me purpose. That was kind of like an interesting argument that she was presenting. Like, do you really want to do this? No. You need this book. You can't destroy it. You can't send it back to hell. You need to keep this shit going because that's who you are. That was good. I'm like, wow, I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, that was a big thing throughout the whole series. It wasn't just a popcorn show. It was a show with substance where you were like, wow. Like I said, the evolution of Ash, and when he had Pablo and Kelly in the first season and they wanted to go with him to the cabin, finish everything that he's all started, he leaves them because he doesn't want them to come with him to the cabin because he genuinely cares about them.
Yeah.
Like, he actually shows some sense of care in how he wanted to build a relationship with his daughter in the 3rd season.
I'd say even repairing the relationship with his dad in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was actually like the biggest thing, like finding out that his dad is still alive, played by Lee Majors of all people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch the dynamic between the two, you can see there was some hatred, but as the season went on, he started realizing his kid wasn't lying. And he's like, oh, and this whole time he's like thinking his son's a monster, and here he's a hero. Mm-hmm. But I laugh because if you look at certain things that Lee Majors wears throughout the season, it's the same shit that Ash wears.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at I think the one time like they're wearing the blue shirt and the pants, I'm like, wait, is that the same outfit?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He left Cheryl's room alone or something. Something about Cheryl's room when Ash came back to the dad's house and he was like, don't go in Cheryl's room, or have you done anything with it yet? It was something like that. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I think he was saying that he didn't even touch Ash's room because, like, you go in there's still beer cans from like the 60s, the 70s along the top of the. I'm like, oh my gosh.
The 80s posters, the 8-track players. Oh yeah, like the bed, the way it looks disheveled. Oh yeah. One thing I was worried about is that I was kind of expecting them to put insert shots from the original trilogy, and I was worried that they were going to overdo it. No, they actually feel right in place. where you see the flashbacks, like the memories coming back into Ash's mind about the things he was going through when he was at the cabin. They didn't cram it down our throats like, hey, remember how great those movies were? Let's just re-show everything all over again. No. It was very tasteful, and it made sense when they put those insert shots. I'm like, all right, that was a good place to put that in there. That was a good time to remember Cheryl, and he's going down the hallway, looking at her name outside of her door, and then he's just getting the memories come back in. So that was nice.
And also how they projected them. It was kind of like in a background, like it was a projection. It wasn't like, boom, here's the flashback from the movies or something in your face kind of thing.
I think the one that stands out the most is when, I think it's the first episode, where he's cleaning up the bulbs and then the doll attacks him. Right before that happens, you see right behind his head, like, all these images flashing that are on the boxes. And I'm like, that's actually, like, one of the smartest things I've seen just with that, because it's like you weren't expecting it, but it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. I remember when you let me borrow it, Jeff, I think, because they're only like 20, 30 minutes long.
They're not very long. They're half-hour long episodes.
Yeah. And the first season was, what, maybe 10 episodes?
Yeah.
They were all 10, I think.
Something like that. Yeah. And I watched that whole first season like 2 or 3 times in a week because it was that good. I was like, damn, man, I haven't been addicted to a show like this in so long. I think Dexter was probably one of the last shows where I was like, what's going to happen next?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first season, to me, is definitely the best one. Of
Hands
the 3,
down.
It's definitely the best one. And maybe we'll get a 4th one. I don't know, but I don't want to get into any spoilers or anything, but like it's a cliffhanger in the 3rd season.
I said to Jeff when it first came out that because of how campy it is, though, I mean, for as much heart as it does have and how it does tell a really good story, I think you don't want it to drag out so long.
No.
So you really do want it to only be like 5 seasons at the most. And I think that would have been done. Just tell a story, 5 seasons, boom. But at this point now, because it just was like abruptly canceled, you know, whether it was piracy that was an issue or not, I don't give a fuck what the reason is. That show should not have been canceled the way it was.
No, they should at least finished it. Been the story of Ash, done. Right. It's over.
Give it a 4th season just to end everything. I mean, the 2nd season got greenlit before the pilot even came out. That's how they were really thinking, wow, we've got something here. Let's greenlit a 2nd season already.
And they did. They totally did.
And honestly, like, with them canceling at the, not even before season 3 came out, it makes me wonder if that ending was, like, way over the top on purpose. Because, like, he ends up fighting a demon with a tank and shoots the Kandarian dagger at it. So I'm like, wait, is this supposed to be over the top just to piss us off? Or is this because it's Ash and it needs to go over the top anyway? Our original idea for this episode was to give the concept of we needed a 4th season for it. I know the one that plays Kelly and the man who plays Pablo are pushing for it, and I think Lucy Lawless as well. They want to just finish the series out and just do one more season, call it end. But up until this moment, we didn't know if Evil Dead was done. Like, Bruce Campbell saying he wasn't going to play Ash anymore, and he said he's going to do one video game. But with the recent Q&A I went to, he said there is a 4th movie coming, but it's not starring him, and it's taking them out of the woods and into the city. So, and then more recently, I found out the title is called Evil Dead Rising. So it makes me wonder how much they're actually going to do with this, if it's actually going to be part of the universe or a whole new series. Because obviously he's not getting any younger, so maybe they'll actually take what they have in play and kind of just move forward with it. Maybe it could be his daughter as well. Who knows?
Yeah.
There's so much that they could do with it just to kind of appease the fans. Like, as you can see, we're huge fans alone. Like, I've seen that movie hundreds of times, every movie, and then the series alone I've probably watched more than I'm cared to admit, because it's that good. But it's like, video games are one thing. Like, yeah, they have multiple Evil Dead video games. I think the only one that actually ties into the series is Hail to the King. But it's literally just the first 2 movies together, and it just shows, like, him more fighting everything around the cabin.
Okay.
Past that, like, you're just getting him shooting at shit. It's, oh, look, there's a deadite, let's shoot it.
Fistful of boomstick.
Yeah, dude, that one, that actually took place in the city, but it was just you shooting at shit. There was really no story to it. And then there was Regeneration, which was a half deadite baby that followed you around that you kicked the shit out of.
God.
But yeah, like it wasn't there. Like the comics can expand on it. Like hell, he was even in the Marvel Zombies universe as Ash. There's so much there, but it's like, you guys, come on, choose something and just give it to us. Don't tease us and be like, oh, we're canceling this at the 3rd season. Do something. This is bullshit.
I even remember when the story for Freddy vs. Jason 2 was coming out, and they were talking about a Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, and that was supposed to be the 2nd movie, and even Monica Keena had said that there was talks about the movie, like that happening, and I guess not, well, I shouldn't guess because it never happened, but then a comic book came out of it, and it actually was a pretty solid story.
It actually made sense.
It
because
did.
It actually brought all 3 universes together because of the Necronomicon. The Necronomicon itself...
I need to find this. I haven't seen this. I have to check this out.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
The funny thing is, like, because of Freddy being a nightmare demon, I think they had to find a place where Jason could exist in this book. And I think that was the biggest thing. And then obviously Ash has to show up because it's the Necronomicon. But we didn't know what the Necronomicon really was until the show. So, like, seeing that the fact that they pulled Freddy from a book, you're like, oh, we can do more than just Deadites? And in the show, it showed, like, yeah, there's lots and lots of demons that are in here. Come on, the lesser demon that still kicks their ass for 3 episodes?
Can we have, like a pussy demon? Or, like, something that's, like, we can easily beat up? Like, well, there's this guy, but he's not exactly a pushover demon, but he's a lesser demon.
I think that dynamic as a movie would have been amazing. Because, like, come on, Freddy, Jason, and Ash. Ash never shuts the fuck up. Freddy, on the other hand, is Freddy. He's always going to have something smart. So that whole movie, just those two go back and forth. Jason's probably like,
Jason just lets his actions do the talking. He doesn't talk.
Kill. There was a pretty cool scene in the comic book where I guess Jason has the shotgun or the boomstick. And Ash has it go off, and it goes off right underneath Jason's face. And then all you see is like half of the hockey mask blown off, where it's like the top half, but just the mouth is showing. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a really cool imagery of Jason.
That's cool.
After that, I was like, that's pretty wild. And they even continued off of Freddy vs. Jason as well.
That's cool.
They had the Monica Keena and Jason Ritter character at the very beginning, and I remember somebody gave Monica Keena a comic book at a convention, and she said this was supposed to be the 2nd movie. And they said, well, did you see you're in it? And she opened it, and spoilers, she dies. And she was like, Jason killed me. It's like, what the hell?
What the fuck?
yeah. She helps him out. He kills her, like, by the way.
I still kill people. I'm not really... I don't have an allegiance to anybody, except my mom.
If you think about it, the original movie, going into the 2nd one, they end up killing the same woman who survived the 1st movie. So it's like, it kind of fit the whole concept that way, but... That's another series we can probably talk about too.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like as I'm talking about, I'm like, wow, I could go off with that.
But should we talk? So I know, like, when we've done our podcast before, we've talked about like best and least favorite things. We can't really do that with this series. I figured, like, is there a favorite? Who's got a favorite movie in this entire saga?
Well, my favorite. I'll say my favorite out of all of it. Like, as far as visual medium that we can just have access to, is the show. I absolutely love the show. I think that's my favorite, hands down. Mm-hmm. But I also gotta throw the musical in there, but because it's not, it's not a movie. I mean, yeah, we got the soundtrack, but all we got are like bootleg copies of it. Really, I can't really put it in there. Yeah. But I'd say the show and the musical are definitely my 2 favorites of Evil Dead that have progressed.
Gotcha. For me, it's like everything is in a tie for first place. It just seems like, just because I like everything so much. I mean, if I really had to narrow it down, I still love the original, and then like Army of Darkness. Like, those two are like fighting for the very, very tippy top, just because they're 2 polar dynamics. You've got one that's straight up horror and gore. You got one that's like an action comedy, so to speak. You get the best of both worlds. Love what they did with the show, and the musical. I could watch and listen to the music until the day I die, and I would still laugh. But if I really had to pick like a favorite, it's really like it's a sparring match between the first movie and Army of Darkness. That's for me, at least.
Wow. Say honestly, I think it's always going to be between the original and the remake. because of how closely they are. The first one always being the one that fucked me up. It's one of the 3 movies I'll say that always will fuck me up. The other 2 you'll probably find out at a later time. But because of like the whole concept of that, and then like how quick they showed them changing, and then like the I would say the makeup effect they used like on certain things like really like progressed. The documentary out there, I think it's not Inconceivable, Invaluable. It actually shows them making everything with that, and then the remake itself is just that intense, and it actually bringing the whole series back to the horror aspect, where I really love the horror aspect of both movies. And it's like there's so much they could have done with them, and then like when they took it into the comedy realm, it's like, well, they're expanding the character.
Yeah.
But it's like without the comedy, we would never get the show, and the show itself, I think, is what actually sets it off from everything else. So, like we had the horror, we had the horror comedy, and then leading into the show, which was a beautiful blend of everything. So having the drama, the comedy, the horror together is what I think is the best thing about Evil Dead as a whole, because like it's showing like the character progressing. So between 1 and 2, you got very little progression. 3, you got to see him more as an asshole, and then from 3 to the show, you're like, well, dude, it's been 30 years. What are you actually doing? And then finally, like they kind of showed it, like, hey, this is what he's been doing. He's been hiding, and then it actually built the character. So it's like we got more from that than the movies themselves. Like, it was cool seeing the smart ass comments, the chainsaw hand, the demons, like the book itself, but I like the character development from the show the most.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the show definitely fleshed out more of the characters, and then you already had Ash being Ash and what we already knew.
Absolutely.
Then we got new characters. We had answers revealed, like from the Necronomicon, from the dagger, going back to the cabin. That was so cool. I wasn't expecting them to go back to the cabin in the second season, and I kind of got worried because I was like, all right, you can't keep going back to the cabin. But then they don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it was there for like the last couple episodes in the first season, and then they go back, finish it again in the second season, and then that was it. Then the cabin was done, and they went on and did their own thing.
I think the way they did it in season 2, though, was probably one of the best, because they just, with them destroying the cabin and them showing what actually happened to Henrietta, her husband, and why Henrietta was the only one in the basement and she was changed, made more sense after that sequence. I don't want to give it up if you haven't seen the show, but I was just happy to see Henrietta as a Deadite again.
Yeah.
Dude, I should say Ted Raimi playing Henrietta is probably the most amazing thing from movie 2 and the part of the show. But it's like, because just his smart ass comments and like the stuff he does to Ash. Oh, I'm going to rewatch that.
Is there one that you've, because I really do not have a least thing, but I will say that there is one installment that I have watched the least of all of them, and that's actually Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. I don't know why. I don't know why that's my least watched of all of them. Maybe just because it never presented itself to me, because I'd rather watch the other ones. I don't really know what it is, but there's nothing wrong with Evil Dead 2. I mean, it brings out the comedy. It brings out Ash's chainsaw hand that we all know and love so much. Even if some people regard it as like this reboot remake, we're not really sure, but it's a continuation of the Evil Dead saga. For me, it's something I have to just kind of piece together myself. Like, why haven't I watched this one as much? I don't really know, but it's not bad at all. It's good. It's really good. I just don't know why that's one of the least watched of this entire saga.
That's interesting, because I actually prefer the second one over most of the movies.
Okay.
I feel like you kind of get the kids in the cabin in the woods, know what's going on. Not that I don't like that, but he gets more of the progression. He gets the chainsaw hand, and you see him in the shed making the little contraption to put the shotgun in and attach the chainsaw to the hand. It's got a little more like action, gung-ho heavy, kind of stuff to it. The girl that does the book reading, that I guess was like Lucy Lawless's sister.
Yeah. We think.
Yeah, we think. And her dad being the one that had the Necronomicon. Yeah, I kind of like that aspect a little more, just because it builds off of it. has a little more of a climactic ending.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, some of the parts, like in the second one, where he's in the kitchen smashing himself with the plates.
Dude, the front flip he does, too. That was impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that can be a little repetitive, and it's like, okay, let's keep the story moving here. It's a little too much slapstick right now. But I think that's why the franchise in general is just interesting, because it is like 1 and 2 are like, you can kind of edit it some way to make this one big long movie out of 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I'd say honestly, I would love to see an edition where they cut out that first 45 minutes and actually tie it in to the end of 1. Because from that moment, I would love to see that as a whole. Like you said, it could be one whole movie. Mm-hmm. So do the whole hour and a half, and as soon as it stops being a remake, tie that into the second movie. It's probably an amazing experience.
Well, that's why I think the musical is so good. Besides the music, it is that here's your characters, here they all die, this is what happens, and then here are the new band of assholes, and then
die.
Yeah.
He goes so high with that last note. Die. Oh, it's so good. Just rock tenor.
But it would be a perfect segue too. After the band of assholes dies, and then you get the new set, you have the whole different story that comes into play. So yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense.
And the musical was entertaining like that, where the girl could, "Daddy, I'm home. Oh, this isn't what it looks like."
That's played a lot in the TV show as well, where he comes out of the casket. This is not what it looks like, I swear.
What are you doing in my family's cabin? I could ask you the same question. It's my family's cabin. Did I ask?
Oh my god.
Evil Dead, man.
I just heard Thea. Funny thing is, like last year, actually almost around this time, I was gonna go meet Bruce Campbell at a horror movie convention. So I'm rewatching all the movies and then the show before we'd leave, and I start realizing Thea doesn't care about the talking, but as soon as the action's happening, she's stopping everything she's doing and just like stiff arm, like straight up, just watching this gore happen. I'm like, wow, I'm becoming a shitty parent at this moment, and maybe the most awesome.
It's definitely your daughter.
Yeah, I was like laughing about it because like she didn't care about any of the talking, didn't care about character development. She just cared about what is happening right now. What is this chainsaw doing? And but I was like, then finally when we meet Bruce Campbell, she's asleep both times. I'm like, kid, come on. So we got a cool picture of her asleep in one of those like kangaroo pouches, and Bruce Campbell just kind of sitting next to us.
Hey.
That like watching that movie with her was kind of like funny as hell because like I said, like those movies. Like I said, at one moment I'm starting to realize like, yo, she's gonna remember this. It's either gonna fuck her up or she's gonna be like, all right.
I think we
have we really said everything we could about Evil Dead?
Yeah, honestly, we could probably go on for like another 4 hours. Like definitely, like we just might end up watching the movies and just talk more. But
seriously, you can't talk about the plots of these movies. You just have to see them for yourself. I mean, this was full of spoilers. So what are you doing if you haven't even seen these movies? If you're a horror aficionado, like all three of us are, seriously, like. If you're trying to make sense of it, it's kind of like the Terminator timeline where the timeline's just royally fucked. But this movie, it's like, this entire series, you can't question that. You just got to roll with the punches and just...
Listen, there isn't even a timeline until the show. Because they're like, oh, it's been 30 years. Like, from which movie?
This is true. You just can't make sense of it. You just have to just ride with it.
If horror's not your thing, it's still a fun bag to check out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
If anything, check out Army of Darkness. It has the least amount of gore,
yeah,
but it has the most amount of comedy.
Yeah, if you're a lightweight when it comes to horror movies, you can't watch horror movies. Watch Army of Darkness. You'll be dying laughing. It'll remind you of like a Monty Python skit on repeat. That's what it'll remind you of. That's how funny the damn shit is. The skeleton's coming out of the ground, pushing his head against the rock, and then like making faces on him. Oh god, it's too good.
Because there is some stuff about Evil Dead that I can understand people not understanding or not really into, because it was so low budget, the first one, and they're just like, this just turns me off. Because I get it. I mean, that's what low budget movies do. I mean, they stick out like sore thumbs. But I think it's also because we've been so conditioned to well-made and polished movies, and you can make a budget a movie now so low budget today, but it could be so good because of the digital technology and the lenses that you have access to.
Yeah.
It makes a world of difference now, but it doesn't mean it's going to be good.
Every year for the last 10 years, I've watched Evil Dead. I never skip it. Every year for 10 years, I watch Evil Dead, and then the sequel occasionally. Like I said, that's the least watched I've seen, though, but I still really enjoy it. Yeah, I don't care that it's low budget. I don't give a shit because it inspires me.
I mean, I've been so addicted to that show now, and I even suggest it to everybody. It's like, well, if you didn't see the movies, at least watch the show. And I tell them, I'll explain whatever you have questions about. Just watch the show.
Yeah.
And the musical. Borrow my album.
You can probably find it on iTunes pretty cheap.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you can. Everything's on iTunes.
I'll lend it out to everybody
iTunes.
for free just to be like, yo, check it out.
Check this shit out.
Yeah.
The Austrian Death Machine is on iTunes. I'm pretty sure you can find Evil Dead the Musical on iTunes.
Listen, Showgirls the Musical is on iTunes. You can definitely find it.
So I guess that wraps up this session at the asylum then, fellas.
Seriously, just watch the movies and the show. That's all we're saying.
Mm.
And hopefully we'll get either another movie that involves Ash or the rest of the series. So that's something. Give us something.
So before we sign off, we are going to say we want a 4th season of the show so bad.
Come on, Netflix, do something.
Yeah,
Seriously.
somebody, please. Just one more. One more and done.
We got, what, 10, 12, 15, 100 streaming services out there? One of you can easily pick up Season 4 of Evil Dead.
Except for Disney.
Not Disney, yeah. Disney's like, no, we're kid-friendly. We don't do R-rated shit.
Yeah, but they'll kill Mufasa.
Those bastards.
Twice.
But seriously, though, pay Bruce Campbell $20 million. You're going to make it back. I guarantee they're going to make it back.
Mm-hmm. You will. He's still alive and kicking and putting on that girdle and just sucking in that gut. Smoking that joint, reading the Necronomicon.
So one more Ash versus Evil Dead. Have him pass the torch on. Hey, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what they're doing with this 4th movie, so...
Yeah.
But if we can get one more with Bruce Campbell... I mean, hell, I've heard Robert Englund tease that he has one more Freddy Krueger in him. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I'm leaning towards no, because he's in his 70s now.
Listen, I don't even care if Freddy Krueger's like 900 years old. I will still watch Robert Englund.
Hey, I'd still love him to do it. I'm not denying that, but I'm just saying that...
Like, it'd be the same thing as watching Kane Hodder as Jason. I'd do it just because it's Kane Hodder as Jason, because it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Doug Bradley as Pinhead. I mean, seriously, these guys, they don't quit. They don't want to quit.
Well, Kane Hodder was Jason in the game, so we got that.
We got that going for us. Then he was also then Victor Crowley, which was essentially Jason without a mask.
Yeah, in the South.
And Danielle Harris in the sequels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Please
Say
insert
it,
a clip.
Say it, Jeff. Come on, do it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think on that note.
Yeah, that should wrap it up. We're signing off. This is Colin Peters.
John Rochetter.
I still fucking hate you, John. Jeff Manfred.
We'll see y'all again in the next session at the Asylum. Thanks for listening. Take care, y'all.
Y'all? The fuck is that?
Please, somebody help me.
Oh, yeah.